welcome to Math Code channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to build permutation and combination calculator. So before we start coding, let's quickly go through some slides to have a basic understanding of what permutation and combination is all about. So definitions. Permutation and combinations are simply various ways in which objects from a set may be selected, generally without replacement to form subsets. So this selection of subset is called a permutation when the order of selection is a factor, a combination when the order is not a factor. So what this means is if you have a set of values, like 5 different values, and you are looking at how many ways can two things be selected from it. So if the order of selection matters, it is called permutation, and if the order does not matter, then it is called combinations. So let's go through the formula. The formula for permutation is n factorial over n minus k factorial. So I'm going to explain factorial in a bit. So while that of combination is n factorial all over k factorial n minus k factorial. So what does the factorial means? So the expression n factorial, simply read n factorial, it indicates all the consecutive positive integers from 1 up to and including n, and they are to be multiplied together. So if I have 5 things and I'm looking at how many ways can all the 5 be selected, so that will give me 5 factorial. So the 5 factorial in computation will give me 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So if I have 7 factorial, it's going to be 7 times 6 times 5 up to 1. So that's what factorial is all about. So let's go through some examples. So here we have 5 permutation 2. That's how you can read it. Say 5 permutation 2. So 5 permutation 2 is 5 factorial over 5 minus 2 factorial. So the 5 factorial, like we said before, is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And that 3 factorial is 3 times 2 times 1. So if you compute this properly, you should get 20. So what does this mean? It means that in how many ways can two things be selected from 5? And the answer is 20 ways. That means 20 ways. You can select two things from 5 in 20 ways. That's if the order matters. So for example, I have a letter like somebody's name, John, and I'm looking at in how many ways can 2 letters be selected from John. So it's going to be 2 ways. So I can have J-O, I can have J-H. So the orders matters. So permutation. So if the order does not matter, it's combination. So let's look at how to solve combinations problem. So the question here is 5 combination 2. So 5 combination 2 is 5 factorial all over 2 factorial 5 minus 2 factorial. So what does that, how do we compute this? So we already have 5 factorial. So 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. If you compute it properly, you should get 10. So what does this mean? If the order does not matter, in how many ways can two things be selected from 5? 10 ways. So in our calculator, we are going to be using Python, of course, to build this permutation and combination calculator. And we are going to learn the following. We are going to learn Python function. We are going to learn for loop. We're going to learn built-in functions like range, how to use a for loop to loop through the range of values, and we're going to use a f string, which is a way of concatenating or putting variable directly into a string. So what are we waiting for? Let's code. Okay, so in this tutorial I have a file called ptutor.py. It's an empty file, so we'll be writing all our code on this file. And I'm also using Visual Studio Code. You can use any editor of your choice, but this is just my personal preference. I prefer Visual Studio Code for my editor. So basically, we'll be building a permutation and combination calculator. So in this permutation and combination calculator, we'll use function to build the calculator. So I want to be able to get an input from a user, then compute the factorial, then divide it and get the permutation and also the combination. So from our slide, you can see that permutation is n factorial over n minus k factorial. So I want the n value, but I want the value to come from a user. So I'll say n equals to, not minus, equals to input. Then I'll pass in what I want the user to enter. So I'll say enter n value. So as the user enter the n value, it will be put in a variable n, and also similarly I'll say enter input, say enter k value. So what this does is it allows users to enter the value. So that's what this input function does. So once the users enter the value, it will automatically set to variable n, and also in this case it will set to variable k. But the input function comes in as a string. So let me show you what I mean. If I say print type of n, you'll see it will be a string, despite that I want the user to enter n. So let me save it and run it so that you see. So you say enter n value, I say okay, 5. Enter k value, I can use any value, say 2. Then it prints out the class of string. So it's telling us that the n value is a string by default. So all the input value comes in as a string. So what I want the user to enter, I want the user to enter an integer. So I will wrap this input function in an int function. So I'll also do the same thing for k. Input, oh sorry, not input, int, that means integer, stand for integer, int of k. So if you do that again, you'll see that now the class will be an integer. So enter n value 5, enter k value 5, then it says the class of int. So this type is also an inbuilt function that will allow you to check, that helps you to check the data type of your variable. So now let's write the function. So function, call it calculate underscore permutation. So this function def is a keyword that allows you to define a function in Python. So you must have a function name. So the name of this function, I'm calling it calculate underscore permutation. So this function will take in two parameters. It will take the variable n, comma k. So whatever the users enter will be the value, will be the parameters of this function. So I want to be able to find the n factorial. So to do that, I will set the variable x and set it equals to 1. Set variable y and also set it equals to 1. So this variable x will represent all the numerators. It will represent the n factorial, while this y will represent the n minus k factorial, as we saw earlier in the slides. So now I will look through for I in range. Okay, so the range function will take in a value, numbers. So I want the range function to start from 1 up to n plus 1. So let me explain this. So what the range function does is, if I set the range function, let's say from 1 to 5, it will give me the value from 1 up to 4. 5 will not be included. So if I want 5 to be included, I have to say 6. So in this case now, since I don't know what the user will type in, we're using n, but I know definitely n will not be included. So if the user type in 6, 6 will not be included. If I want 6 to be included, I have to say +1. So whatever the users enter +1, so that the value of the users will be included in the range. So what do I want to do? I want to be able to multiply all of them together and put it in variable x. So I can do that by saying x equals to x times I. Okay, so what this means is look through the range of 1 up to whatever users enter, multiply all of them together and put it in variable x. But there's a shorter way to do this. Instead of saying x equals to x times I, you can just write it as x times equal I. So it's still the same thing. Simply means multiply all the values of the range from 1 up to n, multiply it together, then put it in variable x. So I'll do the same thing for y. So I'll say for j, I'm using variable j this time around in range of 1, start from 1, then give me n minus k factorial. So I'll say n minus k. So if n minus k is 5, let's say the value of n is 5 and k is 3. So 5 minus 3 will give me 2, to give me 2 factorial. But 2 will not be included because the range function will not include the last value. So for the last value to be included, I have to say +1. So now what do I want to do? I want to be able to multiply all of them together and put it in a variable y, which is what we did before. So we'll say y times equal j. So if I have that now, I will say, okay, what do I want to do? I want to return int, convert it to an integer, x divided by y. So let me quickly go through this. I have a function called calculate permutation, which takes in 2 parameters. The parameters are n and k, and the n is whatever the users enter. Also, k is also whatever the users enter. So I want to be able to find the n factorial and make it to be in variable x. So I set x equals to 1 and y equals to 1. Then look through it. Look through the range of 1, n plus 1. The n plus 1 in this case simply means that if I stop at n, n will not be included in my iteration. So I want n to be included in the iteration, then I will say n plus 1. So the same thing is applicable to n minus k plus 1. So n minus k will not be included, so I have to say +1 for the value to be included. So after that, you return x divided by y, but you pass in into an int function. That means when you divide it, make sure it comes in as an integer. So now, after that, the next thing is to call the function or invoke the function. So right now, function are simply a reusable piece of code that allow you to use your code multiple times. So if I want this function to run, if I want all this code within the function to run, I have to invoke the function or call the function. So how do you call the function? It's as simple as just write the function's name, and then the function, in this case, the function has a parameter passing the argument, which is n, k. So now, if you run it, you're going to get the answer, but now I want to set it into a variable, call it perm. I'll say okay. So perm equals to calculate the function, which is a calculate underscore permutations. So now I want to be able to set the answer, say print. Now I'm using f string. So the f string allow me to put variable directly, variables like perm, like n and k directly into a string without using the plus sign and concatenations using plus and rest. So I can just put variable directly here, but to do that I have to wrap it in a bracket, in a set bracket. So now we'll say okay, your answer for, so I want to be able to get P, that means permutation. So okay, is I'll explain that in a bit. Now you can see that I have three set brackets here, which represents the three variables that I want to appear in my answers. So the first variable is what does the user enter for the value of n. It will come here, then I'll put n. Now the second variable is what does the user enter for the value of k. I'll pass in k here. Okay, so what this means is n comma k, which is a n permutation k, is now after calculating everything, what is now the value of n permutation k? Then I have wrapped everything in a variable, put it in a variable, and it's called perm. So save it. Then now let's run it to check our answers. So run it, click on run. Then it says enter n value. So in this case I say okay, n value is 5, the user enter 5. Enter k value, I say the value of k is 2. Then it gives me the answer. It says your answer for 5 permutation 2 is 20. So here you have it, you have your permutation calculator. So let's do the same thing for combinations. So I'm going to be using the same value for n and k. Whatever the users enter also goes into the value. So now in this case I'll say okay, def, instead of calculate, I'll say calculate combination. I'm going to short it. Okay, if you write it in full, it's not too long. Combinations. Okay, so calculate combination, and in this case it will take two things, n comma k, to take whatever the users enter. So I will do the same thing. I'll set x variable to 1, then y variable to 1, then k variable to z variable to 1, not I, to 1. Okay, now why do I have three things here? Now if you look at our slide, we said that combination is n factorial all over k factorial n minus k factorial. So basically we have three things. We have two things at the denominator and also one thing at the numerator. So let's calculate the n factorial. So I'm going to be looping through it. I'll say for I in range of 1, start from 1, then give me up to n. I've explained this before. So up to n simply means you have to add plus 1 to it to get up to n. So what do I want to do? I want to put everything in variable x. So I'll say x times equal I. So I'll do the same thing for y. So I'll say y, say for j in range of what? 1, 2. Now I want k factorial. So the k factorial is going to be k plus 1. So what do I want to? I want to put everything in variable y. I'll say y times equal y times equal j. Okay, so I'm using k plus 1 here because the formula for combination is n factorial over k factorial n minus k factorial. So this range will give me the n factorial. This will give me the k factorial. Now let's compute the n minus k factorial. So which is going to be 4. Now I already have variable x, y, and z. So and I have ij. So and I can't use k because I'm already using k for the input that the users enter. So I can use another variable here and call it a. So for a in range of 1 comma, so I want n minus k factorial, so it's going to give me n minus k. But if n minus k is 5, 5 will not be included, so I have to say plus 1 for the value to be included. So what do I want to do? I'll say okay, put it in variable z. This is z times equal a. So I have n factorial, I have k factorial, I have n minus k factorial. So what do I want to do now is simply to return it. Return what? What's the numerator now? In this case, the numerator is n factorial. So return x divided by, now what of k factorial? The k factorial in this case is representing y, then multiply by what of n minus k factorial. The n minus k factorial is the z. So I have to put this in brackets. Then now I wrap everything in an int function. It means whatever the value is, convert it back to an integer. That's what it means. So now here we have it. So to print, for this function, for this code to run, I also need to invoke the function or call the function. So to call the function, I'm setting it to variable com, which stands for combination. I'll say okay, the com is calculate underscore combination this time around, and I'll pass in the value of n comma k. So passing the value of n comma k, and I say now to print it. So I'll say I'm also using the f string. The f string allows me to put variables directly into a string instead of using the plus sign to concatenate variables and string together. So now I'll say your answer for, I'm using combination this time around, comma, you can already guess what is happening here. I did the same thing when we were doing combination permutation. So this simply means I want two variables to go into this set bracket. So the first variable is n, the second variable is k. So whatever the users enter will come here. Then the answer, after computing it, going through this function, we'll set the function to come. We'll say is. So let me go through this again. So the f string allow me to put this variable, these three variables, n, k, and combination comp in this case, directly into the string instead of using the plus sign to concatenate the variables and the string together. So now your answer for n combination k is this. So let's run it again, guys, and see what we're going to get. So I want to clear the console. Now I'm using Windows operating system, so to clear the console, just press Ctrl L to clear the console. Then we save. Then let's run it again and see. So it says enter n value. The value of n, I want to say 5, and the value of k is 2. Yes, so it says your answer for 5 permutation 2 is 20. Then your answer for 5 combination 2 is 10, which is exactly the problem we saw in the slide. Okay, so now let's supply another value. So let's apply another value. Let's run it again. So you say enter n value. This time around I will say 25. So enter k value, I will say 7. So what's 25 combination 7, or what is 25 permutation 7? So when you run it, it says, wow, that's a long number. Your answer for 25 permutation 7 is this value. Then your answer for 25 combination this is this. So what this simply means is, in how many ways can 7 things be selected from 25 if the orders matter? So it's this long way. It's I think it's 240 or 2,422,728,000. So if the order does not matter, then in how many ways can 7 be selected from 25? So in this case, it says 48,000, 4,807,000 or so. Also for 480,700. Sorry about that. 480,700. So let's run it again for the simple value instead of using. So this time around it's okay. Enter n value as 11. Enter k value as 5. So it says, okay, your answer for 11 permutation 5 is 55,440. And your answer for 11 combination 5 is 465. So here you have it. You have your permutation and combination calculator. So before we go, let's quickly go through what we did in this lesson. We learned int and input function. The input function allows you to get input from a user and convert into an integer. Then we learn the functions. Okay, then we learn the range of functions. So basically, when you use range, you will have to specify the stop, the start, and also the stop. So the start from 1, then stop at n plus 1. Because if I say start from 1 and stop at n will not be included in the iteration. So if I want n to be included, I have to say plus 1. So after that, you call the functions, then you print f string, which allow you to put variable directly into a string. Then you do the same thing for combinations. So that's it, guys. You have your permutation and combination calculator. So you can add this to it. This will be useful someday. You might use it for a project, or use some of the things we cover here in your project. So that's it, guys. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on the notification button, and I'll see you in the next video.